Welcome to Can He Be Unchained with your big-headed host, Kenny Braun.
Who am I? I'm the man. They ain't fucking with my vibe. Who am I? In demand. I'm the one with the supply. Who am I? Stick 'em up. Put your hands up in the sky. Put 'em high. Put your hands up in the sky. Tell 'em why. Who am I? I'm the man. They ain't fucking with my vibe. Who am I? In demand. I'm the one with the supply. Who am I? Stick 'em up. Put your hands up in the sky. Put 'em high. Put your hands up in the sky. Tell 'em why.
So that song is by Webby. It's called Who Am I? Feat. Pete Davidson. Chris Webby is a dope-ass rapper. Pete Davidson, you might know him for being the guy that tried doing a little skit about Dan Crenshaw, and it didn't fall off right. So guy kind of got shitted on, and Dan Crenshaw, he's probably one of my favorite pirates in Congress. I mean, he might be the only pirate in Congress with the eye patch and all that. But that guy is absolute man. Definitely a great book. He put together a book called Fortitude. That's worth checking out. I didn't quite read it yet because I'm still reading Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life. But that's where we're at, you know? I mean, if somebody does something screwed up, like I'm very forgiving. So like I'm at the point where it's like it's in my life where you kind of let some transgressions go by, you know. I'm not here to hate and just straight up hate and push hate forward. You know what I mean? I'm not like the Democrat Party. And hating is what they're all about nowadays. They're just on full attack on everyone. It's not right. Not right whatsoever. I got family members, can't even have conversations with them about politics. Can't even have conversation with them. They get mad and they storm out of the room. Who's in the wrong when somebody does something like that? Just think about that, right? I mean, how many family members do you have out there that are just belligerent in that way? They just can't handle a conversation. They're too scared to get proven wrong. They're so dead set in their views that anything you try to throw at them just deads the whole situation. You know, how many families are broken up at the dinner table because of this? When all you got to do is have the conversation. The conversations need to be had. We're not far off from each other. We're all Americans. We all want to see great things happen for this country. We all want to see things improve. And things have improved over time. Can't neglect the history, right? So I don't want to start off going directly into talking about whatever. I kind of want to introduce myself a little bit on this show. All right, this is the third episode of this series for the podcast. I finally came out with a name for the show. Can He Be Unchained? And I got a nice dope logo for it as well. It was literally just finished being made a few hours ago. Right, so I'll post this on the page, but I don't know what you can see from the camera from here, right? So this is going to be the logo. Can He Be Unchained, right? My name is Kenny Bronner, right? Kenneth Bronner. So I back in the day, I always used to, just play with kind of puns on my name. Can he be? Can he be? Unchained, meaning like I'm free. I have freedom from struggles in life. I wanted the NY and the NYB put in capitals because I grew up in New York, been here 31 years, spent 2 years in Dallas, Texas. So I thought that'd be a pretty cool little homage to my state and where I'm from, even though it's a liberal hellhole and people are evacuating the state like you wouldn't believe with the politicians that are kind of running this joint. I get into that. That's a whole other story I get into. And then the B at the end, I could always say like New York baller, you know? Now when you look at the logo itself, I didn't even pick this logo. This was my artist that put it together. And when I was looking into it, I'm like, I know that circle. I've seen that circle before. It's supposed to be like a one brush stroke. And it's not supposed to be perfect. Showing that nothing has to be perfect. And I love the idea of just, breaking the chain. So Kenny be in chain. This is where we at. Episode number 3. And we're going to keep producing this. I'm going to do this weekly. Sometimes I might be able to do a couple a week. I want to break up little clips in the shows just to kind of post them out there, see if anybody agrees with the idea that if I start going on a rant where it's just one topic all the way through and it doesn't bounce all over the place, which a lot of times it will bounce all over the place. That's kind of how my mind works. So, pretty cool. Pretty cool, like, bounce around with that, So, in the second episode, I started reviewing it and paid a lot of attention to how I was talking. And how I was talking, I kind of want to be able to change that up a little bit. Because I was saying a lot of these filler words in between what I was talking about. So I want to be able to try to cut that out a little bit better. The whole, know what I mean, the New York, yeah, you know what I'm saying, yeah, forget about it. Yeah, I was kind of going along those avenues. I was saying sentences and ending it with right. Like I'm almost forcing you to agree with me, and I don't want to play that game either. And then the uhs. And I even, at the end of the second episode, I started talking about the uhs. And it started actually causing me to say it more, and I was kind of putting that out there, and it was a real fucked up situation, you know what I mean? And see, there you go, you get the you know what I mean at the end of that. That's the New York bouncing out. Like when I was in Dallas for 2 years, I started saying y'all all the time to where it wasn't even recognizable for me. I came up to New York, and I was sitting in a meeting for my job at the time, and I started talking, and I used y'all in a sentence, and I didn't catch it, but everybody in the room started cracking up, and I was like standing there, like, why is everybody laughing? Because we don't say that up here. But down there, it's like a part of their language. But it's pretty cool. Being in New York most of my life, you always have that sense of pride. I mean, you're a New Yorker. Anywhere you go in the country, you're going to outwork wherever you go. Because if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere kind of feeling. I'm out in Suffolk County on Long Island. Town I grew up in is Mastic Shirley area, William Floyd alumni, 05. So, go Colonials. I was on the championship team. Well, we weren't the championship team the year I was there, but I was on that championship. That was the year before the championship team won 4 or 5 Long Island championships in a row. And we were the team right before that. We lost in the championship game, like the county championship game. Pretty wild times. And what sucked is my cousin was on the other team, so he got all the rings to show, even though he wore my number and everything, right? Bastard. I'll get you, Andrew. I'll get you. So, just sitting here, it's 11 o'clock? Just about 11 o'clock, July 10th, on a Friday. Drinking a little Joe, because I want to try to get this going for like a good hour. My little mug here, made by my little man. Little Jackson Tyler Broner, born in Texas. He just turned 3 in May, so it's pretty cool. I'm a first-time dad, and it's quite an experience. Just the little things you catch over time. Because all of a sudden, when they start talking words, and when they start using it right and like the right context and everything, it just kind of like blows your mind. You're like, I guess you were listening this whole time, and this little guy talks nonstop. So it's real cool to experience. You see that he picked up on some of the things that I was teaching him since he was little. Like we started a couple gardens for him. We got pumpkins growing out front from the pumpkins we picked up last year. We actually planted them in the ground. I mean, it was my idea. I was figuring like, hey, these pumpkins are full of seeds, so I throw them in the ground. Maybe something will happen, So I threw those in the ground, and without expectations. I wasn't planning on planting pumpkins in the front, but we had like a bunch of pumpkins from a local farm over here, some gourds. So I took those, I just dug a hole and buried them. And then eventually, Jax, he gets up, and he went into the garden. He stood on top of the pumpkin, where the pumpkins were, and he just collapsed in, so it created this little hole. So, kind of covered it up a little bit, and then next thing you know, we're starting to grow pumpkins out of it. So it's pretty cool to see. What's wild about that? The pumpkins, the flower kind of like opens in the morning, like when I go for work. But when I come home at the end of the day, it's always closed up. And I never really planted them my whole life. I'm not like a gardener or anything, not in the least. But it's a cool experience. I figured that'd be fun for my son to check out, because I don't remember doing stuff like that when I was younger. I guess that's kind of what you do when you're a parent. You kind of do stuff that you don't really remember experiencing when you were a kid to try to give them a different experience than what you had growing up. Although you want to keep some of the same traditions, it's just cool to be able to introduce different things into his life. And it's also new for you too, so you get to experience something new in your own life, which I found really cool. And it's like a cool concept to go off of. But he's doing great. So you got me, you got Jax, you got my wife Renee, and we have a real good balance as far as like how we parent, which is very interesting. You know, it's a lot of unknowns, but it's cool because when we were in Texas, we had like barely any family to really help out down there. I mean, she had aunt and uncle down there, and a couple cousins, but it wasn't like being home with like mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, aunts and uncles that are over here, plus my other nephews and nieces. So that was played a big part in coming back to New York from Dallas. So I'm one of the rare ones. Yes, left New York, but came right back. And nobody does that just because of the way the cost of living is up here. It's insane. They tax you to death up here for everything. And where does it go? Right? So if I start getting into that, you know, we can start talking about New York City, getting into the project buildings and stuff. I call them project buildings. I call them public housing plantations, aka Democrat voter farms, because that's kind of how they're used. They bust these people down to the voting booths, promise them free stuff, and they get their votes. And we still keep getting these real crappy politicians in office, and they just keep turning stuff up and keep messing things up. They won't ever take accountability. And it's just a non-stop circus. It's a non-stop circus with these Democrats today. And I'm not a Republican. I'm independent. I slightly lean right. Back when I was in college, I would have probably been considered more of a liberal on that end, because I had a lot of radical ideas that I thought would be cool, that I thought would work out, that would help people. So I was like, maybe if I start, playing around with these ideas, maybe it goes somewhere. It didn't go nowhere. I got an associate's in criminal justice. Became a criminal not far after that, and you kind of can't go nowhere with a criminal justice degree when you kind of got yourself into trouble when you're younger. I mean, I tried to go in for the cop application, probably a good 7, 8, maybe 9 times, and I always I passed through the test with flying colors. But when it comes down to actually being able to go there and being able to be accepted, given I had a couple possession charges in my early 20s, it hasn't worked out. And the last time I tried to get in for corrections, and it was the same story. So, stuck in the construction fields, where I've been most of my life, being an installer. Now I'm like a production manager, aka warehouse supervisor. So I'm kind of like running a company more or less, which is a cool experience in itself, because like I've always wanted to be on that kind of level. I don't want to sit here and just install my whole life. I like to use my mind. I like to be able to organize stuff, and just build from there. Because like you do a lot more with your mind than I can do physically with my body, even though I can do a lot physically with my body. I'm a beast. I was always known as a beast. You're talking to Big Head Brawner here. Top heavy. Put the football helmet on. I look like I'm falling over. That noggin. See that noggin? Yeah, that's a big fucking head there. Look, head. It's a huge head. I bet he sleeps on a giant pillow. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Mike Myers movie. I Married an Axe Murderer. I think that was Mike Myers' pops and his younger brother or something like that over in front of the TV. Hysterical movie if you ever check it out. It has a couple good scenes. I mean, it gets kind of slow, but it has a couple good scenes. Like most movies, So today I started, I've always been into the politics, right? Like back when going through college, I was probably more on the liberal end, although I had some like radical conservative ideas as well, as far as like reversing stuff back. That is unfair throughout history. I remember just one instance when I was in college, and I started talking about, I did like a speech about affirmative action and how it is counterproductive. It's like counterintuitive when you're talking about equal rights, but yet you're going to hold people who have a lighter complexion back and push people who don't have a light complexion forward. That's kind of a racist policy in my eyes. I mean, I get the point of it at the time because there was a lot of people that weren't in those positions, but what kind of quality you get into those positions if the skin color is going to be the number one determinant as far as where you're going to have that position in that job? So I was like, it always seemed a little off to me. And plus, being in criminal justice, of course, you start talking about the criminal justice issues. So, like, I was very into trying to, like, find a way to rehabilitate people out of prison to reduce the recidivism rate, which the recidivism rates are insane when it comes to the prison system. Man, if you get out, you end up stuck in the cycle, and the cycle keeps spinning around and around. You come out, commit another crime, go back to jail. Come out, commit another crime, go back to jail. It's just nonstop with that. So that was one of the things I was really into. I mean, my idea mostly was to take the last year, or take like instead of early release for people, like when you qualify for early release, instead of just like, oh, you stood good standing, here you go, see ya. Instead of doing that, if they qualify for early release, I would design a whole rehabilitation community, very similar to a community out in the real world. And you put them through this rehabilitation community for a year. And they have to meet certain criteria and guidelines. They have to be on the straight and narrow. They have to pick a profession. They have to perform. And if they don't meet the guidelines, they go right back to the other prison until their next qualification to get back into that early release program. That way, when they enter society, they're kind of like in the groove of things, so you kind of hit the ground running. I mean, and a lot of stuff that's kind of unfair with how the prison system works. If you're in jail for like more than a year, you end up getting that felon label. Felons don't. People don't want to hire felons because you committed a crime serious enough to where they had to take you and remove you from society for more than a year. So you always end up getting stuck doing these menial jobs that you can't make a decent living on. And I think that has part to play in the recidivism rates, because you start coming out and you get all caught up back into the same lifestyle again because you weren't rehabilitated whatsoever, and then it kind of builds up. And with these communities, I would make them all self-sustaining. They have their own communities, their own jobs within the community. There would be different like labor jobs, production jobs, farming. I mean, when you build a community, there's a lot of positions, a lot of jobs that are needed. So back then, this is talking like what, 07, maybe 08, when I was in college, thinking of this idea and kind of combating it with today, because I've been doing I do a ton of I used to be really into just listening to music, and then music started kind of putting me to sleep. There'll be a point to this is where it kind of starts and builds up. So music was kind of putting me to sleep when I was driving, so I switched over to watching Netflix while I was driving. I would just put on a movie and listen to it. Then I was like, I started getting into reading some more self-help books, just being in recovery for how many years. I was into reading like Tony Robbins books, Awaken the Giant Within. I got into reading 7 Successful Habits. That book, I think that one was by 7 Successful Habits. I forget the guy's name. It'll come to me. And then I started reading a couple other, kind of along that angle, like self-help-ish kind of books. So then, from reading those books and sitting in the car, I started listening to people reading those books. And then I went from there to listening to lectures. So I became very into listening to people like Jordan Peterson. That's why I'm reading his book, 12 Rules to Life. And then I started listening to Dave Rubin. Then I went from Peterson, Dave Rubin, Joe Rogan. Started listening to, who else? I got those 3. And then a couple other podcasters. I don't know, I'm missing a couple people. But then I went from those podcasters till you start hearing people making good arguments and good points when they're talking about and discussing certain subjects. And then you start getting into other people that you start reading on. Like I started watching a ton of Thomas Sowell, who's like a genius economist, Black American. He's like 90 years old now, so he's lived through the civil rights era into today, so he knows what it was like before, after, during, into today. I mean, 90 years on this planet, you know. There's a lot of experience there. And being an economist, they're all about the numbers. And then I started noticing when you're on TV and whatnot, what economists do they show on these channels? You don't see them. So they all kind of influence me a lot. You know, Walter Williams. Started looking into just a whole ton of them. I mean, I could probably write a list of like 20 different people that I often watch, including Bill Burr, because he's fucking hysterical. Hysterical lady. I think he says that every single show, at least once or twice, if he's ever reading anything from some lady, and it's from a lady. That guy's too much. I saw him in Madison Square Garden once with my buddy Paulie. Actually, no, I didn't see him with Paulie. I saw him with Renee. Who did I see with Paulie? I saw somebody else with Paulie, but I saw that with my wife, and we had like these seats in Madison Square Garden. If anybody's been to Madison Square Garden, that place, it's freaking so crowded, so packed in. You're like right on top of somebody next to you. We were just lucky to be in an aisle where I guess a couple people didn't show, but it was an awesome show. Bill Burr is hysterical. Even the guy he brought on before, definitely a good show. I don't think I'd ever go to Madison Square Garden again for a show, just because just wasn't a good experience being cramped in there and the amenities and whatnot. Like it was kind of a trash venue, to be honest. I mean, they'd have to do a lot of updating over there for me to want to go back to that place. I think I'd be more into doing, you know, like an intimate setting. Like I went and seen Louis C.K. with a bunch of my buddies. This is after he had his incident, you know, where he got himself in a little trouble with the liberal mob, because that's what they are today. They're a mob. They're just constantly on attack. You did something wrong. Boom, boom, boom. It's like, come on. We're human. You hear a human error, like, shit happens. Doesn't like mean you're supposed to like demonize somebody, like just out to ruin their lives. Well, that's kind of what happened to Louis C.K. And I think he got, what was it again? He had this weird fetish of having women watch him while he oh God, that's just too funny. The comedian didn't end with that guy. His whole life was comedy. Even in the bedroom. That's funny. That's like, I mean, it's a little sick, it's a little disturbing, but it's like just picturing this weirdo after watching all his stand-ups, and like that's what he does. That's like his thrill. God, kills me. But he puts on a great show. Even after all that stuff, he puts on a great show. He's a funny dude. I think he, like, after the show, he like hightailed it out of there, because we were all gonna try to hang back and try to talk to him, maybe get some pictures and whatnot. But it was one of those little shows where they're like, oh, you gotta hide your camera, you can't have phones on the table, you know, nothing, no stealing the material kind of deal. But it was in a little dump shithole too. What was it? Not like a big venue or anything. It was like McGuire's over in. It wasn't the Bohemian one. It was the one in Levittown. But still, it's like Louis C.K., who was like this huge headliner, and he's in Levittown. It's like, really? But I mean, he lives out here, so if I ever see it again, it was like a spur of the moment show. I would probably go again, because that guy is that funny. I mean, I don't care about the crazy past, because I mean, even with doing that weird shit, I mean, at least from what I hear, he was like asking, so he wasn't like, surprise. He's like, you mind hanging back? I kind of want to do this thing. I mean, how do you ask that? How do you approach that? Like, they come back to the room. He's like, yeah, I don't wanna do anything with you. I just want you to sit there in a corner of the room. Right? Just sit there in the corner of the room. I want you to check this out, right? Look what I can do, huh? I'm not just an artist on screen. I'm not just on your TV. I'm not just on your stage. I am the stage. Too much. too much. But where was I at? I've gotten to the comedians in a couple shows. And, yeah, Bill Burr was hysterical, so I'll watch his podcast weekly. I think he does 2 podcasts. He does one Monday morning, he does one on Thursdays. And they're both hysterical. I mean, every once in a while it gets like a little dull, a little boring. I mean, especially today, because it's like, he's not out and about. He's basically trapped in the house with his family, like 24/7. At least that's how it sounds. And he comes up with these. He just like read the news and just come up with these bits, and it's hysterical. That's cool. That's the another one of the podcasts like I like to watch. Let's see. I know I'm forgetting a couple, so I want to at least pull them out, give them some shout outs. All right. So you got Jordan Peterson. I'll watch him quite a bit. I'll watch a Dan Bongino show pretty much daily. And I know it's like the conservative, the Republican. Oh, I know the left they have to demonize the other side. They can't survive without demonizing the other side because their policies just don't add up for the past 60 years. It's all oppression. It's all racism. It's all pointing the finger at the other guy while they're doing it the whole time. But I like Bongino because he's very passionate about it. He's like he's an ex-cop, ex-CIA agent, blah, 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 if you know the story. And when he talks and the way he kind of accentuates like certain words and the way he makes things sound like more intense than they really are, which is a cool aspect, but he really goes in deep on the subjects, and he's like real. You can tell when he's talking, he's not putting on an act, like this is him, which is cool. I'll watch Shapiro, although Shapiro with his whiny voice, he could get very annoying at times. He just talks too fast, and I don't really like what's going on with his Daily Wire. The biggest thing that just like irks me about the site, because like I like to read articles, and when you go on their site, if you want to read an article, it's like it tries to get you to donate and sign up and stuff like that. And like I'm not with that. That's what the New York Times does that, and New York Times is trash. So I don't know why the Daily Wire would want to associate itself with the New York Times. It kind of pisses me off a bit. So although I used to love reading the articles, like I can't even do that anymore. So I'll listen to the show. But it comes to a point where you monetize something too much, and it's like, dude, just come on, come back to reality. Stop being so money hungry, and it's about the message more than anything, right? I'm sure he's making plenty of bank where he's at, so I don't see why how it seems like they're like starving. And the same, I watch Michael Knowles, like I said, the Rubin Report, Clavin Show. Ted Cruz has a show which is pretty cool. The Verdict, and Ted Cruz is another one. Like these Republicans, like, right? So like Democrats today, they're like attack. They're like constantly coming after Republicans nonstop. They're trying to like get like Trump associates locked up. They're pushing cases on them, this, that, and the other thing. And it's like for doing stuff that the last administration was doing themselves. And it's like, what's up? You're trying to get somebody online in the Congress? What about Eric Holder? Wasn't he straight up lying to Congress about Fast and Furious? But you know what it is? Republicans don't have balls. They don't have cojones. They don't. Conservatism, when you're so conservative that you just don't do anything, that's a problem. That's why we need more people that are middle to the road. And I don't see enough people that are middle to the road, so that's another reason why I want to jump in and be on the show, because I'm not like your typical like, here, got my Bible, I got my Bible, my shotgun, my MAGA hat. Like, I don't even own a MAGA hat. I'm a Trump supporter. I don't own a MAGA hat. I don't have Trump gear. I'm not running around with a 2020 flag on the back of my car. I'll do the American flag. I mean, that's one of the things I want to do. I haven't done it yet, but like I want to have the setup with the American flag on the back of my car. But like I'm not gonna do, I mean, Trump's old branding. They know who he is, but I'm not doing it to support Trump. I'm doing it to support my country, right? Because I think that's more important than supporting just one man. Even though I think Trump he's probably the best person we've had in that position longer than my lifetime. I'm 33, so that's 87. So yeah. Longer than my lifetime. He might be the best person we've had in that position since Lincoln, to be honest. just because there's so much corruption that's built up over the years. I mean, people want to jump right into the bandwagon of hating Trump, and it's like, why jump into a hate bandwagon? What fun is that? What good is that? You're just trying to find the next thing to hate him about. It's been constant for 4 years. Constant. I'm sure that slurp is going to sound pretty loud on the when I play this back. But it's constant hate. Every single thing. It's always something new. Oh, he did this. Meh. Oh, he did that. Meh. Oh, he said this. Meh. It's like, dude, you're not dealing with a clean-cut gentleman politician. He's not a politician. He's not. He's a regular guy. Not really a regular guy because he's like a filthy rich dude, but his whole life he was always dealing with regular guys. You had to pull a lot of contracts with different builders and stuff to get stuff built. You're dealing directly with regular guys, regular people, to put together those and sign the paper, you know? So he's more of a regular guy that we've probably had like forever, and he's an outsider. And why do you think we elected an outsider? The insiders are crap. They've been destroying this country for years. What are Congress's approval ratings? Let me look that up right now, actually. What are Congress's approval ratings? I know they're not good. I know they're way worse than Trump's approval ratings, right? So let's see. Congress approval ratings. Let's see what we got right now. Right? Congressional approval ratings. Gallup. Let's see what Gallup has to say. Do you approve of Congress as far as May 28th? 71% disapprove. And they have this going all the way back, too. So let's go back. Okay, so 2017, same time. 81% disapproval rating. Let's keep going back. 2016, August. Oh, no, actually 2015, August. 82 disapproval rating. Let's keep going back. 14, October 13, 85 disapproval rating. Keep going, right? We're in Obama years now. I'm not just picking out any one that's like on the highest on the list here either, right? Although he had a couple. February 2012, 86% disapproval. But then you got what? May 2011, 70% disapproval. And it just keeps going back. Right? And like after Obama was elected, it got a little bit better. It's like in the 60s, but it's like 60% of the country disapproves of the job you're doing, and these people are still in office, the people that have been in there for decades, for their careers. How are they still in office if they have these kind of ratings? Like this is horrendous. Like I'll show you right on my phone. I don't know how good you can see it on the camera. Maybe I have to turn the angle a little bit. When you go into it, it's like, it's insane. 80, 78, 71, 69. And it just keeps going. It's just trash. Trash disapproval ratings. Insane. In the Bush years, look at the Bush years. Bush years, it looks like it was a little bit better. It was like under the 60s, down to the 50s in the beginning. The millennia. Let's try the millennia. Let's see what the millennia says. Oh, the millennia, year 2000, 56% approval rating. So for the past 20 years, Congress has been crap. Right? Even when you look in the 90s, because this, and it's not often you'll find statistics that are going back this far. When you're looking for stuff today, they make it very hard to find stuff when you're looking like Google and stuff like that. When you're trying to look for crime rates and stuff like and stuff. I know when I was in college, being a criminal justice major, like I was able to pull up crime statistics over the past 30, 40 years, no problem like that. And you can look at the trends, you can look at what's been going on at that time, then you can write your paper. And today I have such a hard time even finding that information. You look for charts and graphs. I had this teacher back in, what is this? This is like 06. I think it was like some mathematics class. What was it? It was a statistics class that I took. I believe it was Briarcliff College, right, which was like a little dump of a college. I mean, not really. It was like a private school. They ended up going out of business. So what's that degree worth? Probably nothing. It's a piece of paper anyway. I don't care about paper. And in a statistics class, I remember the teacher saying that stuff to be aware of. People will take graphs and trends, and they will paint and target those graphs to show you a picture that they want to show you. They'll like manipulate the graph. So if I show you a 30-year span and you see this, but if I show you a 10-year span where it's only going like this, I could paint the picture that horrible things are happening. This person's bad, this person's bad, that person's bad, this has to change, that has to change, that has to change, without addressing the entire trends over time. So you can be very spinning it in your own favor, which is happening a lot today, with a lot of different statistics. So it's stuff to be aware of when you see somebody talking like, oh, for the past 5 years, this has been like this. Well, if you look over the trends for the past 20, 30 years, you might be able to see that like, oh, it goes up like this and then it comes back down. It's been riding the roller coaster like this the whole time. So we're only on the uptick, but it's going to tick back down because that's how it's been doing it. That's how the trend looks. And the trends are very important. Like, we shouldn't be jumping in to change our country over certain things if we're not paying attention to the historical trend, because that's going to create a problem. That's going to be very dangerous for everybody, especially when you don't take history into account and what's going on with the history. History is very important. Statistics are very important. Very important. We need to be on the ball with this. We don't need to be posting 20-year-old whoever on the news, on social media with their opinion. Their opinion's irrelevant. The statistics are what matters. So if we can start getting back to that level of things, I know people have been ignoring statistics for decades, especially with the civil rights movement and certain policies they passed, like the war on poverty. They just ignore the statistics, even though the statistics are horrendous. They talk about how one time, if you look up like a couple of people I watch, like, oh, I know I was going to remember some more of them. You got Milton Friedman. I watch a ton of lectures with him. And they like to go over the trends, and they were big proponents like against the minimum wage, and they felt like the minimum wage law, what it did is it took people that were unqualified to earn that much and force them to earn that much, therefore forcing less people to be hired and keeping more people out of work. So in adverse effect, raising the unemployment rate. So I think it's very interesting, especially when you look back and you research the thinkers of those times, what they were thinking, what they were talking about, what statistics they were using, and it's very interesting. I know between like Friedman, Sowell, Walter Williams, they talk a lot about how things were before the civil rights era, before they passed the war on poverty, before they got into the war on drugs, before Biden's '94 crime bill. And that's the guy the Democrats want to elect. I'll get into that in a minute. So, before all those times. And they start talking about the single motherhood rates, which the family unit is probably the most important aspect of our country. Because that's where the kids are born and that's how they're raised up. So when you're talking chicken and the egg kind of theory, like this is the most important part. This kid is born and he's in this household. What is he going to learn in that household? What kind of attention is he going to be given? What kind of discipline are they going to have? All right, so they talk about the single motherhood rates going back. So you're talking going back before the civil rights era, before the 60s, before the war on poverty. And they're talking about single motherhood rates for Black America being at like 12, 13%. They're over 70 now. What? It's like, how do you let it get that far? That far? How do you let it go from this to that? That's our politicians being complicit. That's them not doing their jobs. That's them not paying attention to the statistics, the numbers that matter. They're hurting families. And then they talk about the white community, because they always had everything divided into, at a certain point, they had at one point they had the country divided into red, black, and white. Red to be the natives, black to be Black Americans, and white to be whites. Like, I don't know why you would do it like that. I mean, do you want the unity picture? But that's neither here nor there. And they were talking about the white community, which was at like 3%. And now it's over 30%. So to say this is systematic racism, that's false. It's systematic oppression. That's what happened. That's what the war on poverty did. It systematically oppressed everybody. And then they went from there to Nixon passing the war on drugs and just throwing men in jail. Who becomes daddy? The government. The government becomes daddy. And we're going to give you a check. We're going to give you housing. We're going to pay for each child. We're going to take care of education too. That's going so well today. The kids that are coming up today don't know nothing. They know how to have a voice. They know how to chatter. They don't know any facts behind it. So we have conservatives going to colleges and basically just challenging them. What liberals do this? Every debate you see with a conservative debating a liberal, the conservative destroys them. Destroys them. Like, not even close. So what are these kids learning in these schools? Right? I remember talking about the No Child Left Behind Act and how much of a bad idea it was. Right, let's go back before that too. All right, because like I'm the oldest of 4 siblings. 3. I got me, 2 brothers, and a sister. Right, so growing up, I'm just gonna talk about field day because field day when I was in elementary school, field day was a competition. They had ribbons, first, second, third, blah blah blah. Whoever's the fastest get it. And like, I mean, me personally, like I remember the sack race. If Chris Back is watching this. I know his family's more like on the liberal side, but like I won that sack race. Wasn't you. I know we've been fighting about this for years. Right, so like we both did the sack race. I felt like we were both right there. I thought I edged him, but they gave him the first place award, and like I was pissed back then. But it was, and like I got upset about it, and then we started arguing about it, and we've been friends for oh god, that was first grade. So we've been friends for like almost 30 years. No, not 30 years. 25, probably 25 years. Which is a quarter century. Even though I haven't talked to him much in 10 years, but it's like still, it's been a quarter century. So it's like we were still battling about that. But like that sense of competition, that kind of drove us. We always competed with each other growing up. He won up me on this, I won up on him on that, and then it'd be back and forth. And we used to get so emotional and so tight about it, especially with those wiffle ball tournaments back in the day. The wiffle ball tournaments were no joke. We used to break out the notebook. We'd have automatic doubles, triples, home runs, and we had statistics built up for like seasons and stuff. It was crazy. St. Don't Paul, remember that one? That's for damn sure. That was a lot of fun. We still talk about doing that at some point, but we're so busy with our lives nowadays. It's hard to really iron down that time to get stuff done. Because I mean, what ends up happening realistically, especially in today's day and age, everybody has to work and. The next thing you know, it's like, oh, the plans get pushed down the road, the can gets kicked, the can gets kicked, and then next thing you know, I'm 33 years old doing a podcast for the first time in my life. Hey! So, no, but life was great. So back to the field day, right? So mine was all about competition. My brother was all about competition. My sister was all about competition. My youngest brother, that's when they started with the participation shit. And just comparing my generation to his generation, even when you talk to them now, they're very almost, I mean, I'm not going to say like entitled, but they don't have the same drive because that competition wasn't instilled in them. We live in a capitalist society. The competition has to be instilled in you if you're going to succeed. Or you could just be a worker somewhere just killing yourself. I mean, that competition is needed. Is needed. You know, if we're not competing to one up each other, if we're not trying to become better people every day, if we're not improving on our lives, then what do you end up doing? You end up being a Democrat, right? Just teasing. I mean, I have some Democrat friends. I have some liberal friends. I mean, we bust each other's chops all the time. Some points they might be able to get me a little bit on, and they might box me in a corner. It usually starts off where I make a great point, and then they turn around, they take an aspect of the point that they know they can win at because they don't want to have the full conversation, and then they end up winning this little aspect. But it's a small part of the big picture, so it's like, would you really win? Not really. You didn't really address this whole section here. You took a little part and went with it. That's always interesting. It's always fun, you know. I'm always willing to have the conversation. So if anybody watches this and is like, "Oh, look at this big-headed bigot. Hey, he's a racist. He's a white man. He's a man, and he's white." Ugh. I don't know. What color is that? I mean, I'd say that is white, right? Yeah. Even when you go on my light side, yeah, no. I was having this argument before, right? So, I was talking about how, like, they broke it down where you had Native Americans, they called them red people. They had black people, they called them black. They had white people, they called them white. And I was, like, really thinking about it or really breaking it down. I was like, white people aren't really white. You know, if I was white, I would look like, what is that show? Oh, something, a first grade. I look like a doodle in a drawing. Yeah, that would be white. And then black people, if I took up a black piece of paper and I had one of my black friends here, and I held it up to him, like, he's not black. If I took an Indian back then, I mean, the whole redskin thing, when you look it up, they talk about how redskin originated from a warrior tribe. A warrior tribe. You know, wondering why they use it for sports. It was a warrior tribe, and they used to wear red face paint. It wasn't even about their skin, it was about the red face paint. I mean, eventually it ended up being about skin because they started dividing people up based on their skin color. But, I mean, if you go with the origin of the word, it's really not what they're making it out to be. But on that whole conspiracy theory, that's not really conspiracy, on the whole conspiracy with the name, I say if anything, if they're going to do anything, if they're going to change the name, keep honoring our Native Americans. Change it back to what it was before it was the Redskins and make it the Braves again. Why not? You guys aren't in the same state as the Atlanta Braves, the Washington Braves, the football team. Why not? I think that's better. Or do like Tomahawks or something. You know, and keep it in the Indian. So you're honoring our history. If you're gonna do anything, I mean, I don't see how Redskins is that bad, but we're living in the times where anything we do can be completely demonized. You can be shunned. You can be cast out. They can call your job. They can fire you. Oh, they can get you. They gonna get you. The liberal gonna get you. Like, what was the story today with the Goya guy? I find this hysterical. So, the Goya CEO. Let me see if I can pull up his name real quick because it was literally just on the story, and I was like, this is gonna be the epic backfire because they don't realize that the people that are pro-Trump or even like are okay with Trump, like, do you think that we are going to stay still and let you guys destroy our country? And it's not my country because of my complexion. So whoever's saying that and probably going to put that in the comments or something like that, we're going to shut that down right now. We're going to shut that down right now. It's not about my complexion. It's about what's right and what's wrong. We are the greatest country on this planet because we value individual people. Not groups of people. We value individual people. It took a little while for it to stop being about a segregated thing. But if you want to put blame on that, put blame on the Democrat Party, who was pro-slavery, who was pro-KKK, who did the lynchings, who erected most of the Confederate statues after the Civil War as a slap in the face, and who had the whole civil rights movement, the party switch, which never really happened. I just found out how to buy your votes with the word free. Just think about that. Right. kind of like lost my train of thought just going that angry because like not even going that angle, not that angry, but like it gets me a little heated just to think about how like they just got away with all this history and they were never held accountable. Never held accountable after all the things that they did over that time. Feel free to fact check me. I'm open to criticism, right? And me saying that this is the greatest country is not because of my complexion. It's because of what we accomplished over our history. We've accomplished a lot. What I'm talking to you through, that's a huge accomplishment. That's a huge accomplishment. Just being able to have, like, it's a nice breathable shirt, like, that's an accomplishment. Like, and these accomplishments aren't from one group of people. Do you think we would have been able to survive on the world stage without slavery when everybody had slaves? No. No shot. How expensive would our goods have been compared to the rest? You think somebody's going to buy our goods compared to other goods if we're doing some sort of, like, international trade on that level? No, because our pricing is going to be so much higher, or we're not going to have as much profit, and it's going to be a problem. When everybody else started getting rid of slavery, then we eventually did. And that was like a collective thing. And what's interesting when you start talking about those times and talking about like just, I know my dad was saying this before. He said he read it from some article. Feel free to fact check it because I haven't really fact checked it, but like it makes sense because I've heard this before. I've read this somewhere before. But they said like 12 million slaves got, 12 million Africans got relocated to different parts of the world. 12 million. And that like 2 million of them died in transport, which is a lot. And supposedly only like 250,000 ended up here, but way more ended up everywhere else. And that doesn't excuse like all the transgressions of being here, but still it's like, this was kind of widespread. You guys are influential. Everywhere you went. Everywhere. Influenced every single society around the world. What has that worked for? I mean, what type of people has that worked for more? I mean, you got black, you got Africans, and then you got us, spread around the world, right? We've done it together, even though like we were assholes at one point. Even though the people that sold you to us were assholes at one point. It's like it's still it's like you played a part. We played a part. A lot of people played a part. We're all part of this collective world and this collective society together. So we need to start, being appreciative of everything, the bad stuff and the good stuff. We've been through it. We've been through the ringer, and don't think that like slavery was only dictated to one race, one set of people. It was dictated to everybody. And just the thing that's the most messed up about our country and the slavery is that it took almost 100 years to gain civil rights. So like that whole period of time, like I'd care more like about that period of time than I would all the years before it, because that period of time is where it was like kind of messed up. And who was the ones perpetrating all that? That's the question. That's what anybody who's into this should be diving down into. Because that's what makes the most sense. All right, so where did I start? I was talking about how the competition built up and how they changed this to my brother in field day, and they give the participation awards out. Everybody's a winner. Everybody's a winner. Here, hand off. So it's kind of like they started. It's almost like something similar to how, like an entitlement kind of thing. Just because I was here, I'm entitled. So then they do the No Child Left Behind Act. And through the No Child Left Behind Act, they're just passing people through different grades. How can you do that? If they're not proficient in the studies that they had to do in that grade, how are you passing them on? This is creating an army of ignorant, uneducated people. You look at some statistics with inner cities, which I think Walter Williams talks a ton about. And so does Thomas Sowell. When they start talking about the statistics on the inner cities, today, you're lucky to find one person who's proficient in math. How important is math? It's one of the most important things you can have to determine a successful career. Anywhere. You need to know these things. Not being proficient in reading and writing. What are we producing? We're reverting backwards. Rather than making people smarter and improving our society, we're taking it backwards to make people feel good about themselves. Your feelings are irrelevant. This shouldn't have ever happened. These are your politicians. These are the 75% disapproval ratings. What are we doing? What are we doing? It makes no sense to be going this angle. It makes no sense. Why are we dumbing down our society? And then look where this is happening. I mean, I blame Bush for the No Child Left Behind Act. But I blame all the other politicians for letting it continue, even though it's producing crap results. I blame Democrats for the war on poverty. But I blame all the other politicians for letting it continue. Handouts help no one. No one. Single motherhood helps no one. We need to do this as a team. There needs to be a father and a mother. There needs to be two figures. The number one thing that's going to take you out of poverty, if you ever want to deny the government handout, is having both parents there, the two incomes. One parent, you increase the likelihood you end up in prison 20%. I said 10% last week. I did a little bit more watching and listening to some of the more videos, and they were saying it's actually 20%. So even if it's between the 10 and 20% range, that's 1 in 10, 2 in 10. Prison. Who are they affecting? Who are they influencing? Who's not making their way to prison? And how is their life going? Are they just working the 9 to 5, just life going by? Are they out there opening new businesses? Are they improving the community? This is stuff that needs to get fixed in this country, and it needs to get fixed fast. And it can get fixed fast. But our problem is the 75% disapproval rate. It's not Donald Trump, who's been in there 4 years. This all didn't happen in 4 years, people. This did not happen in 4 years. This happened after decades of oppression. Decades of oppression against weak-minded people living in impoverished communities where they feel trapped. When you feel like you can't leave your community, otherwise you're going to lose out on guaranteed funds. People don't want to take that risk. That's why I work a day job while I also sell for 2 other companies. Because that guaranteed money helps. God forbid there is a dry spell. And now I'm going to start doing this on weekends too. So I'm not even trying to monetize this whatsoever. I mean, these long clips where it's more like a show where you listen to me talk, you listen to me BS, you listen to me try to bring up point after point and just like have the conversation. That show, like, I don't care if it gets demonetized. I love music. Music's a big part of my life. I'm always going to put some sort of artist that I'm jamming out to. Like I was putting Chris Webby and Pete Davidson. They did that song, Who Am I? Who am I? Like, I was jamming out to that today. And I was like, you know what? That's going to go good at the beginning of the show. And I can kind of introduce myself and boom. And hopefully that was a better introduction than the last one, because the last one was a little long. But like, I don't care if it gets demonetized because I put that song on there. It's about getting the message across. I have my day job. I'm making what I need to make to get by. I got my 2 other sales gigs where I haven't produced for them lately because I've been just putting so many hours at the day job. But it's like, when things add up over time, you start getting not really recurring customers, but when you get referrals and stuff like that, and that's where I can make out with that. If I make a little dollar amount, through the year, like that's gonna improve my overall income. So that's why I'm like, you know, and this you could even take back to like elementary school, like just the hustle, just the competition, the drive. You need that drive. A capitalist country is all about that drive. Can it get screwed up and convoluted? Can people become corrupt? Of course. That's going to happen everywhere. Even with your utopia. To all you communists and socialists out there that talk about the utopia, that cannot exist because human beings will have human error. There's no way to fix that. I mean, I always associate it with, have you ever seen the movie WALL-E? I'm big with my cartoon movies, my animated movies. WALL-E. They basically have these people who they're strapped to a chair. They got their screen in front of them. And they're kind of just coasting along. Hit a button, they get fed. Hit a button, they sleep. Like, you want to live a programmed life? Like, that's utopia. That's what utopia is. Nothing can go wrong while I'm in my chair and just hitting buttons. Nobody's in my way. This human is not interacting with that human. Therefore, there cannot be the conflict. That's what this does. That's why our country is so screwed up right now, because we've been ticking towards in this direction for decades. Socialism is here. It's been here since the 60s. War on poverty. War on drugs. They try to do it with healthcare. Thank God some Republicans actually grew some testicular fortitude to actually slow that down. And Obamacare fell flat on its face. But they're trying to take over. They took over the education system. They're taking over charity, which is what the welfare is supposed like. That's supposed to be for charity. That's supposed to be for like free giving in a capitalist society. That's not for the government to do. They should have never got it done. The bureaucracy and how much cheddar cheese they're pulling, insane. Like, that was never supposed to go that way. It should have never went that way. I get it. It's like a feel-good policy. It's a feel-good policy. I talked about this a little bit last week, how they use like agreeable words to just gain people in and pull them in. Affordable Care Act. Yeah, how could you not want affordable care? Are you going to vote against this? Then you don't want affordable care. Demonize. Liberal tactics. This is socialism's here. Socialism is attacking our country right now. People are tearing down statues. People are burning flags. And the politicians are letting this happen with their 75 disapproval ratings. And what are we doing? We're working, busting ass every single day to keep this country moving. And we're being quiet. Enough with being quiet. Enough with being quiet. I know I was talking about the Goya thing for like a second, but I'll come in with that, right? So this was funny because he praised Trump a little bit after he left the meeting. I didn't play exactly what he said, but I just saw the reaction afterwards and how people are trying to boycott this guy. And I'm like, no, not what's going on in the country. People are furious with this Black Lives Matter movement, this Black Lives Matter organization, which is a racist, sexist hate group. They're borderline a terrorist group. That is the organization. The saying is agreeable, people. The saying is very agreeable. But the stuff that they're pushing for is borderline terrorism. Tearing down our country, tearing down statues, attacking people in the street. This is happening. I'm seeing the videos every single day of people getting attacked, people hitting cars, people running people over with their cars. Like, there's a battle going on right now. And whether you choose to believe it or not, it's happening. It's here. It's another reason why I'm on this. Because, like, the message isn't getting across by enough people. And it needs to get across. This is a problem. This has been happening for decades. It's not something that just happened. This is not Trump. This is not 4 years of somebody who was never a politician their entire lives being in office, even though they want you to believe that that's the problem. It's not. These are the politicians we've had in office forever today. more in particular, these are the Democrats that were never held accountable for 100 years of oppression, lynchings, KKK. Building Confederate statues after the war is over. That's them. They might mask it well by funding people who are of a certain complexion and putting them in office. Look at their cities. Voting blue is a problem right now. They don't want to listen to facts. They don't care about statistics. All they care about is emotions and how you feel. I'm an hour in, but I could probably keep going all night with this, especially since I put a little bit of caffeine in me. I've been working since, 4:30 this morning. I was out the door at 5:10, woke up at 4 o'clock. So yeah, I've been running all day. It's almost 12 o'clock now. And I started this just before 11. But it's just really getting out of hand out there right now. And there's just so much tension. There's so much tension. I mean, you feel it. You feel it with this coronavirus thing. That's another thing that kind of just blows my mind. From the second this started happening, I was just looking at the timeline of things. I've been paying attention to stuff. So they tried to impeach Trump beginning of the year. I feel like the camera's kind of delayed a little bit. But they tried to impeach Trump at the beginning of the year in January. Oh, no, it wasn't January. It was like almost in February. And then it went straight from that straight into this coronavirus thing where they shut down the economy. So step one to try to get rid of Trump, impeach him. Forcing it through in a partisan fashion. That means only one side of the spectrum voted to impeach him. The other side said no. No. And they didn't even have enough evidence to prove their point. Because the second it went out to the Senate, they just looked like morons. They spent, because I watched the whole thing, because like I'm kind of a junkie with some of this stuff. I mean, I was an addict for a long time, but like I could still get kind of hooked into that addict behavior. I watched the entire hearings. The Democrats, Schiff, Nadler, who else they had over there? Hakeem Jeffries, I think. And I forget who else they had there. They had some other woman, I forget her name. But they had all of them there to make the case. They said the same things over and over again for days on end. They didn't present any evidence. They didn't present anything new. They all talked about their opinions and how these people felt. They had no direct evidence of anything. Anything. And then when Trump's team went to speak, they literally spoke, I think the Democrats went for like 72 hours straight. And Trump's team, I think, was like, 12 hours? Tops? To present their case? And that should be alarming if you're like kind of like on that way on the political spectrum, because like this way is right, that way is left. I don't know how it's going to come up on the camera, so we'll let that be that. But you got to question that too. And they're trying to say like, oh, it went into the Senate and the Senate Republicans didn't want any witnesses. And it's like, you didn't. Your investigation portion was supposed to be done in the House. If you had witnesses that you needed to talk to, that should have been done then, because you're presenting your case. You're presenting your case. You impeached him already. And you're presenting the case to get him out of office. And your case is supposed to be finished. It's supposed to be closed. You don't get new witnesses. Are you serious? Meanwhile, with all that going on, they're covering for Biden. Biden got caught in a quid pro Joe. Quid pro Joe. Really? How do people fall for this agenda over and over again? It's just repetitive. It doesn't make any sense. It's nonsensical. It's bizarre. It's bizarre because they don't care about the facts. They just care about their feelings. They've only been saying Russia, Russia, Russia for 4 years, spreading Russian disinformation to remove an outsider politician from coming in and ruining their show. Think about that. Why would an outsider feel the need to run for president if things are going so well in our country? Maybe it's the disapproval ratings of Congress. Maybe what he's seeing isn't good. Obama sounded great, but he didn't deliver. And things got worse for our country as a whole. So just think about that. Like, why take the risk? Why take the risk? You're going to go into political office, you're going to get demonized for every little thing you ever did in your entire life. Every little thing you ever did in your entire life. God forbid you had a funny joke. God forbid, you talked to somebody and they didn't like you. God forbid you dressed up as for Halloween, and it's just bizarre, you know. And then the liberals start demonizing some people for doing this, like a blackface kind of thing. They'll demonize somebody. You dressed up as blackface. That's racist. How is that racist? How is that racist? You're appreciating another culture and you're disguising yourself. You're putting that culture. You're dressing. you're doing the whole bit. But then they won't demonize people that are on their side that did the same thing. That's like, the hypocrisy is insane there. This is a problem today. The hypocrisy coming from that whole spectrum of the political system. It's complete and total hypocrisy. And they have to see it. They have to know that it's hypocrisy. And if they're willingly doing this, I think it's only because that they're hiding something. I think it's only because they feel threatened. I think they feel like their time is up. Like, I'm a firm believer that the Democrat Party, they should have been ended in the mid-1900s. The Republican Party, if they, like, I think a lot of their problem is because they're combating. So they kind of, when they combat, they kind of inherit some of the traits. Like, oh, they're fighting me this way, so I got to fight them this way. Kind of fight fire with fire, going all the way up. Because the Republican Party, they freed the slaves. They were originally like they were like supposed to be like constitutionalists, freedom, rights, you know, stick in that whole ballpark. And just because of how the Democrats have been, like, they kind of screwed up a ton on their way as well, especially with Nixon and the war on drugs. It's like they have a crime problem, but instead of changing the policy that created the crime problem, let's just attack the crime problem. You're attacking a symptom instead of going after the actual thing that's causing the problem. So what are you doing, really? What are you doing? Come on. Let's get with the program here. And there's the 4 years of Russian disinformation for a guy who's never held political office, who was very well respected and liked throughout all communities before he ran for office. And he's the problem, not your 75% disapproval rate. Like, get real. Trump got elected because of that. People were sick of the same old mumbo jumbo going on. So they said, let's throw a wrench in the system. I was talking about this big time. This is like why I voted for Trump the first time. I was like, I just feel like we got to throw a wrench in the system because it's just so apparently corrupt. Down to like campaign finance, down to how they operate, down to the elite kind of like atmosphere that they place themselves in, like how they kind of view themselves as above the law, and just the policies that when you look back and you start reading into it, it's like, why are we still doing this? I get it, you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, but it's not right. You're hurting their entirety. You're hurting their entire lives. It's absurd. It's absurd how this goes on in our country, and I don't see how it's supposed to be allowed to continue like this. Like, it's so wrong. It's so messed up. It's so disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. They do the impeachment. We jump right into COVID. And then when the curve comes down, instead of like calming things down because the curve came down, they showed one video of a couple of guys chasing down a jogger, getting into a conflict, killing the jogger. Okay. Right away they're trying to depict the white versus black. And then right after that they show the lady in the park who she had a crazy reaction to this guy telling her to put her dog on a leash. So she started calling the cops. So it got people a little more fired up. And then they go right to a video where the guy's literally like, it's so bizarre. Like, you're there and how many people are watching, and there's 3 people holding this guy down, and you have your knee in the guy's neck. Like, that's so blatant. That's so blatant. It's almost unbelievable. It almost seems like it was like a setup to stir this rage. Not saying that it was, but like it kind of like seems that way when you play the whole course of events leading up to it. And it's like, this kind of seems sketchy. Election year, try to impeach him January, COVID February, freak out about his reaction, the numbers start coming down, racism. And now we're jumping into taxes again. This is a reoccurring thing. While there's ongoing investigations into the corruption that started this whole Russian thing. I don't know. I don't know if you see the same thing I see. I don't know if you feel the same way, but like, this seems very bizarre to me. This seems very bizarre. It seems very like what's really happening right now to our country. And now we got this Black Lives Matter group, this openly Marxist, racist, sexist hate group that's borderlining a terrorist organization, tearing down statues, attacking people in the street, painting Black Lives Matter on the streets. Like de Blasio did that today. The second I saw that happening, I was like, we should take notice of every single person that was there painting this sign in the street. That saying has been hijacked because it's an agreeable saying, and this is how they pull you in every single time. They take an agreeable saying, and if you don't agree with it, you're against Black Lives. You don't like Black Lives Matter, you're against Black Lives. So what I post is Black Lives Matter is trash, and then immediately after that, I always write Black Greatness Matters. I was thinking like all lives matter made sense. I mean, that's what the whole spectrum is telling me, basically, right? Because like a lot of times when you like disagree with one side, you start reading on the other side, and then you start to believe everything the other side's saying. So I start saying all lives matter, and then you got Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. So it created this division, these two groups, to collide with each other. So I don't agree with Black Lives Matter. I don't agree with all lives matter. All lives matter doesn't work because some lives don't matter. You're not going to say that a child rapist, some guy who just raped, say like a 10-year-old little girl or a little boy, you're not going to say his life matters. Right? You're not. You're not going to say one of the guys who supposedly knocked down the Twin Towers, you're not going to say one of their lives matter. Bin Laden's life didn't matter. Adolf Hitler's life didn't matter. Right? If you think about it. So no, all lives don't matter. But you know what matters? Black greatness matters, because we have some great Black Americans in this country. And you know what else matters? American greatness matters. Because we have great Americans in this country. They don't get the time of day. They don't get put on the TV channels. They don't get exalted. They don't get like put up front and center when stuff like this happens. What gets put up front and center? A talking head. Don Lemon gets put up front and center. Chris Cuomo up front and center. Reading a teleprompter. Telling them whatever bigoted statement that it's telling them to say. Just think about that. How messed up is that? Al Sharpton. I haven't seen Jesse Jackson much, but Jesse Jackson. They even gave Al Sharpton a show. His entire career is about race baiting. His entire career is based off division. Those people get front and center. Kaepernick gets front and center. What did he just say about the 4th of July? It's a white supremacist holiday. It's the birth of our nation. It's the birth of the most free nation for the individual that has ever existed. Remember, those times slavery existed throughout the country. We cannot compete for products, to sell products, to gain wealth, without having that happen. Because 10 million slaves were sold through the slave trade around the world. Slavery ended in like 1860 something. I might be wrong on the year, but I'm somewhere around there. And the problem after that was that they were still oppressed for 100 years, even though stuff should have probably been done right then and there. So if you want to complain, Kaepernick, the Democrat Party, from when slavery ended to the 60s, the Republican Party, from when slavery ended to the 60s, that's where you bring your fight to. It's not all of us. We're not running the show. We elect people to run the show for us while we slave day in and day out to keep the country running. Those are the people that make all the legislative decisions. It's not the Caucasians. And it's not only the Caucasians that do the voting. Even if you had 3/5 of the vote, you still had part of the vote. It was the collective that did it. And you gotta understand, in the times back then, they were scared of things getting out of control when they designed this country. They wanted to be as smart as possible to make sure that everything was going to run smoothly. Like, this would be a thing that lasts, and this would be the most fair country for an individual ever. So they only wanted educated people voting, because they'd be educated on everything that's going on in the country, especially when communication wasn't the same as it is now. If you think about that, right? People that are communicating by like telegram or whatever else, like, people will typically believe whatever they're seeing right in their local area, but they might not know what's going on across the country until some sort of transpondence makes its way to the other parts of the country. So I mean, I don't know where I'm going exactly with that point, but I'm hoping that like makes at least some sort of sense to why they thought the way they thought. They didn't want people that they were suppressing from reading and writing to be able to vote, because how are they going to understand the concept of voting? How are they going to understand like what's happening here? And then you also didn't want to automatically give them all the votes, because therefore the people that own these people, that were educating these people and kind of controlling these people, can tell them to go and vote for this person and basically force them to vote for this person. So that could have been a problem too. So there's several reasons that play into that fact. So there's not always just one simple, plain factor. It's not just racism. Racism is a factor. You probably have racism plus one person getting multiple votes, so cheating the system, plus they aren't educated enough to know what's going on in the country, plus, and you just add them all up and you put them all together into a big picture, and you kind of like, you can't, I mean, you want to say justify their actions, but like, it doesn't entirely justify their actions. It kind of just explains to you like what would have been going through their minds at the time, which is what needs to be discussed. It's not a black and white picture going all the way back then. It's not one cause. It's not one factor. It's not one thing that made that issue happen. So it's another thing to think about. Just whenever you're trying to put a point across, you gotta play everything into effect. You got to be able to almost picture yourself, right? Like, I could picture myself looking this way from my hands, from just talking this way. But you got to be able to step outside yourself and see yourself from different angles. Try to see your perspective from different angles. Take opposing viewpoints and kind of play with them a little bit and see, like, does this idea really fit? Or can there be other stuff from outside that might also be able to play into this? That might also make sense. That might also be able to explain this action or this thing that happened. And then just weighing it all out and then talking about it openly without demonizing and shutting down the conversation. Then you're able to find like real perspective, real thought. You're able to like have a real conception of like what could have happened during these times. I mean, it's just, that's another thing I like to talk. I feel like I've been talking for too long. I'm almost at an hour and a half now. It was not my intention to run this an hour and a half long, but I was feeling really inspired. I kind of like, I wanted to do this all week. I was thinking about doing a couple of short shows. Today I was originally just going to do just the entrance, just the beginning of the show, and I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm feeling it. I was on Twitter for the first time since like 2016, posting a lot, and I was like, you know what, let's go for it. You know, let's go in. Let's get in there deep and kind of really throw some perspective out there and play around with some ideas. So the way I like to end the show every single time is I'm going to put up another song. Feel free to listen to it. This one I'll put up. Maybe I'll just do a verse instead of doing the whole song. So if you like it, the song I'm going to play today, I kind of fit with the program here. Let's see. So I did hip hop twice for the other song. Let's do, let's do something you might not expect. All right. So like I'm into all genres of music, hip hop, rock, rap, country. I'll jam out to pretty much anything, as long as the lyrics, kind of make sense. I'm a lyric junkie. If you play me a beat with somebody that's not really saying anything, that's not like really good message and whatnot, like I might not buy into it. I might be like, yeah, the beat's good, but click, next song. I want substance. I want to hear something deep. I want to hear somebody go in. I want to hear somebody with lyrical skill, lyrical talent. I want a decent message. I want to hear about, if I can, hear about like a struggle or something. Something that's more than just a beat and somebody just rapping. All right, so let's see, which one should I do? I had Chris Webby for the intro. Let's do. I've been jamming a lot. I've been jamming out to Mysonne quite a bit, and you wouldn't expect that because like I'm like independent leaning right. He's probably like way on the left spectrum. But he's a cool dude. Oh wait, that freestyle goes 8 minutes. I'll probably cut this off after he does his civil rights line because that line is insane. Or maybe I'll fast forward. You know what? This is gonna be 8 minutes long. I'll just play the whole thing and then I'll post. I'm gonna post this whole video all together in one. This is gonna be probably like one of my last like straight up raw videos. Because I'm going to start editing a little bit. I want to have like a set entrance for the beginning, which I'm going to put that logo on, which is dope. I love how that came out. I was like, when I saw that, I was like, this speaks to me. This speaks volumes to me. That logo is dope. The open circle, the chains. Can he be unchained? With your old big-headed host. But yeah, we're gonna sign out. I might do another one of these tomorrow, depending. I got a buddy that wanted to hop on, so I was like, yeah, you know what? If you do hop on, we can kind of set that up and have a little session. Why not? I mean, I don't care how long it is. I mean, I might break this thing up into a couple sections too. I'm sure there's probably some point that I started hitting on this show that I might not have hit exactly the way I want. So this is a work in progress. Right? I wanted to kind of fix my speech on this show a lot. As far as the last show I did, I said a lot. I said, you know what I'm saying, a lot. I said right a lot, and I want to be able to cut that out. So we're gonna see. We'll see just how many times I said it on this show. And if anybody has any critiques, I am open. I'm an open book. I'm allowed to be wrong. I'm okay with being wrong. You can try to make fun of me and demonize me all you want. I grew up in the atmosphere where I got made fun of for nearly everything. Because that's how me and my friends used to be. We used to just, it's like all about witty responses and ripping on each other. So like it was always fair game. Never had hard feelings about it. I mean, some stuff kind of ticks you a little bit, but it's like, that's all right. You need to feel that sometimes. Right? You can't take yourself so seriously. There's a lot of serious things going on in the world, but you need to be able to bring levity to the situation, and you got to be able to grow. You got to be able to move on as a human being. I mean, somebody could have probably told me something years back, and it would have led to, throwing this up, or even just like scaring people a little bit, which I was always very intimidating. I mean, the big noggin alone, I know it's a giant target, but if this thing comes at you, good luck. It's a hard noggin. You're not but yeah, we're gonna end it with this. This is a freestyle from Mysonne. I'm gonna play the whole thing. He freestyles on Hot 97, right, with Funk Flex. This is 3 years old, has 8.9 million views. The song is dope. His lyrical capability is dope, and the message behind it is on point. So enjoy, and we'll see you next week. And you're here with Kenny B Unchained. I'll leave you with this on my song.
I saw NY General. I came to kill it with my boy Funk Flex on Hot 97.
Go.
That's how we own
Ready
it.
for it.
You know what it is. Funk Flex, BX, Mysonne.
Yes, sir.
Everybody can't come up here.
Sir, I got here, Flex. Yes, I'm here. I ain't come to play with him.
Not at all.
Not at all. Real niggas got the ball now. NY, what's good? Real niggas, what up? If I offend you, then I meant to. New York, stand up. You should be standing up right now, like I am. You hear this beat? You know what this is? What it represents. Yeah. Welcome to New York City, the Empire State, where the entire state is trying to acquire cake. You either buying or you supplying weight. Where the unarmed blacks get shot down by the Jays. It's time to educate and separate. Heavy from the featherweights. Underdog winners from losers, you niggas celebrate. Couple brand movers from dudes that's really selling weight. Ones who get told what to do, the ones who delegate now. Let's set it straight. It's levels to the shit. And I'm a 5-star general. I got medals for this shit. You see, I was in the field when the game was about principles. And gangsters didn't take no pictures or do internet. This shit is new. Everybody wasn't selling it. You couldn't put walk on the block with no resume. You couldn't just walk outside and just hustle. You had to be about that life and paid the muscle. See, in the jungle, the soft got extorted. Crimes amongst gangsters never got reported. Nowadays, the gangsters do crime and they record it. The game is fucked up because the lines done got distorted. It all started when the snitches got glorified. When they ain't killed Alpo after Rich Porter died. They made a movie about Frank Lucas. I was mortified. Y'all niggas rode that wave like a water ride. So y'all decided that this fake shit was real. When snitches came home and y'all embracing them still. Ratting the G in the same place and they could chill after he violated the codes that should've got him killed. That's when I said chill. Y'all can keep the game. It's no more rules. The players just ain't the same. Prices too high. They stepping all on the cane. Everybody playing. Nobody don't know they lanes. It's a shame. The center's running point. So-called killers is telling they running point. Niggas getting A1 felons for 1 point. They doing life and they ain't even selling the whole joint. So what's the point? We dying in vain. Nigga, we dying, we just hiding the pain. Daddy told me one thing that stuck inside of my brain. Do the same thing, expect something different. You insane. Shh, not me. I'm a genius. Flex, this is deja vu. I done seen this, yep. I was right here, hide me in this shit. And I had you looking like you smelled a dead body in this bitch. Let them try me and I switch from Malcolm X to Red again. I'm man down, everybody dead again. Each and every rapper you name, I ain't better than these codeine dope fiend niggas. I'm the medicine. A veteran with adrenaline of a rookie. My niggas done made empires off a cookie. When we was learning morals, they was playing hooky. Now I'm doing my numbers like a bookie. Look me in my eye, the average cat to turn away. Straight up G, no curving in my vertebrae. Every block, corner, curve, niggas done heard of me. I'm exposing them now. They gon' wanna murder me. I had to do it. This shit was really concerning me. These niggas up here spitting, committing perjury. Chicks taking trips to DR and they getting surgery. Forgetting I done already hit my how you curving me. Flex. This shit is life. I burn down mics and I fight for civil rights. I'm trying to get black, same shit they get a whites. I used to kill niggas. Now I give them life. Now I give them life just to help them through that darkness. I motivate and I give hope to the heartless. My verse on that Million Man March was just to let my brothers know we can evolve from the projects. I know it's hard to digest, but they feeding you pork. You see the image they project, they don't be what you thought. I don't blame them no more. It be what they talk, but ain't a nigga more thorough than me in New York. See, I can get a nigga snow, I can get it for the low, I can get it by the pound, I can get it by the O. I can get you pieces that's hidden, that's for show, but before I get you anything, I'ma let you know this shit is all a setup. They'll let you get your bread up. Next thing you know, you in state greens getting a setup. Your man on the phone, he telling you keep your head up, while your girl got her mouth on his dick, giving your head up. Or you getting wet up by a so-called op. Now he really your bro, but that's part of the plot. You see, you don't understand we is 3/5 of a man. So when they ended slavery, they had another plan. They said we can't end slavery. Too many residuals. So they don't call you slaves no more. They call you criminals. Sending you to prison, you working for cheap labor. Don't listen to these rappers, they trying to see some paper. Real, these niggas couldn't be faker. But when I tell you niggas is frauds, I'm a hater. Look, 50 said, God blessing all the trap niggas. I got a question for that. Where you at, nigga? Trappers that I know is getting arrested cause of rats, nigga. Sentenced to life and they ain't never coming back, nigga. Rap niggas telling you lies. They ain't never seen a gram, but they selling you pies. Niggas ain't real. You can tell by their eyes. They ain't telling their stories. They telling you mine. I was really in the streets moving. Work on the night shift. The roaches used to scatter when I hit that light switch. Yeah, Jeezy, I know that life. Moving snow to put food on the stove at night. I was married to the game. I had to throw that rice. Ray Kwan said, you a legend. You know that, right? But you don't want to hear that. They want to hear that lingo. Soldiers going to war, letting that thing go. Trappers stacking them chips up like bingo. Kingpins in Sing Sing, but they ain't sing no, cause they know I'm a one-to-one. I was a savage before I was 21. Had my first gun at 16, putting in work. Word told me how to hold that little Uzi bird. I mean, horizontally, how was a horror, honestly. Had too much heart and niggas wasn't as smart as me. Then I did 7 of them off for armed robbery and realized the so-called gangster niggas lied to me. They threw a battery in my back. They was charging me. I'm catching charges. Lawyers is overcharging me. Bozo, CO niggas in charge of me. I'm nice with my hands, so the bigger niggas was charging me. Pardon me. The preachers couldn't save us. The teachers didn't teach us. The streets had to raise us. I'm from High Bridge, down the block from Labby Davis. We was all sick of being broke. It was contagious. But then I left the game because I realized it's way deeper. You still say my name and you get it for way cheaper. These chicks giving their box away for a pair of sneakers. So if you got a girl like Tasha, you better keep her. And these niggas, they doing the most. They're telling on themselves for likes on the post. Niggas want power just to brag in the boats. You see, it's way too many Tommies, not enough ghosts. But then again, Ghost was rap. I live by the code, so I ain't co-signing that. The moral of the story is stop chasing the glory. My youngest 16 on the island, facing 40. To the real G's, it's time to raise these shorties. To the kids I misled, just wanna say that I'm sorry. To the real G's, time to save these shorties. To the kids I misled, I just wanna say that I'm sorry. Definition of a G part 3.
Shit was dope, right? I'm out. Peace.